a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Please take your seats. Good morning, everyone. I call this exchange meeting to order, and in a moment I'm going to ask you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like you to also remain standing in a moment of silence as we remember those who are no longer with us as a result of the attacks that occurred on this date in 2001. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Be seated. John, are you online? He's here.
Madam President, I'm working with John right now to get him online.
Thank you.
He needs his, you to send it to his AOL mail account. I don't know who I'm talking to.
We're talking to people in the sky.
Oh, and I'm talking about John. Sorry, everyone, we have to do a little business here.
Okay, I'll welcome you again to the exchange meeting for September. I'm Kat Fimmel. I'm president of the RCSC 2023 board. This meeting is audio and video recorded by RCSC management and staff, and it will be available for you to review on YouTube. Please turn off your cell phones, other electronic devices, or otherwise put them in the silent mode. I will try to remember to remind you at the end to turn them back on. I'll go ahead and introduce our management staff. Oh, I'm sorry. First, I best introduce my board. Let's start with that. Vice President McAdam. Treasurer Bass, we're trying to get him from Colorado. That's a long way away. Secretary Totten.
Good morning.
Director Steve Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Director John Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Jeff Darbit, sorry, it's been a while.
Thank you. Good morning.
Director Jim Ruff.
Good morning.
And Director Denny Nichols is also beaming into us from somewhere. Okay. Now I'll introduce the management staff. We have Interim General Manager Kevin McCurdy.
Good morning.
Mike Whiprud, who is the Director of Buildings and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, the Director of Operations.
Good morning.
Brian Duthu, the Director of Golf and Grounds.
Good morning.
Mike Dearmeyer, the Director of Bowling. Jo Lynn Higgins, who is our Communications and RCS Marketing Coordinator. Beth Lucas, who is our Sun City Visitors Center and Marketing Manager. We, of course, have Marcia Johnson, who is our Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
Somewhere up in the booth is probably Teresa Serino. I also want to take a moment to recognize Alan Kleinhantz and Doreen Rafferty they are our audiovisual engineers that bring this to you each month. Our regular timekeeper's not back yet. She's still up north. So today, Director Collins will be keeping the time, and we ask that you be mindful of the time as you make your comments. And we also want to thank the staff here at Sundial for having this room ready for us. I don't know if you looked down at the floor, but while we were having our summertime, we had a contractor in to redo our floors, and I think they look pretty good. So before I open the floor to all of you, at the back of the room was a topics sheet. And so I want to go ahead and take a minute or two to go over the topics. The first of which involved water volleyball. Over the summer, they had some extended hours. It seems to have worked well for them, but summer is over now, and they've gone back to their regular hours. There was an issue about whether the PIF was in compliance with our bylaws, and it is. Oh, and there was an issue involving the spinning swimsuits at Bell. That issue has been resolved, and the B&I folks now keep spare parts so they can fix those whenever that is necessary. And the other item involves the budget, which is currently being developed for 2024. And meetings are going on every other Wednesday, I believe. And we are anticipating having the 2024 budget prepared sometime late in October, I believe. Okay. And with that, I will open the floor to the members.
Thanks, folks. My name's Alan Rockman. I represent the informal named Money Club. We meet every Saturday morning at Fairway, but in the computer room, folks were nice enough to give us that access. Number one, I want to congratulate Kevin for taking on two very tough jobs. I think he's been doing it now for 110 days, nearly 4 months of both. And I was going to say, are you getting any sleep? Are you really working 80 hours a week in 2 full-time jobs, or is that an underestimate of your hours, Kevin? So, but well done. I hope the people in charge have decided to recompense you in a proper manner. I hope you're getting 2 paychecks these days. Yeah. Let me ask you this. In your experience of these last 3.5 months, which of the 2 jobs is more pleasing for you, and which one, if you had the choice, would you select going forward?
Well, I've already selected to remain the finance director.
Okay, that's good.
What I prefer, that's what I enjoyed.
And I imagine that you, as I recall, a few meetings ago, you put out, you hired a company in Scottsdale for, I don't know, in the neighborhood of $5,000 to try to find a new general manager post. Have you gotten any applications regarding that yet?
I'll allow the board president to answer that question.
Use the microphone.
Okay, I'll talk. Oops.
That was for you, Kevin.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I can take 2 microphones if you insist.
While we do not discuss personal matters in public forums,
No,
I do want to give
no.
you just a sort of an update that we did receive applications.
Have you interviewed these folks at all?
The recruiting, sir? Yeah, we will soon be interviewing folks. Thank you.
Okay. Back to Kevin and some more money questions that we want to talk about. I want to congratulate you for adding to Kat's editorial dated July 26th, which I personally have read many times because I think it was personally addressed to me. And and you enlisted Kevin to finish the other half of the article. You were discussing transparency, but I think the part of the article that you wrote has to do with excellence and improvement, and efficiency is the main word that I would compliment you with on the changes that you've brought to these meetings, this budget meeting in essence, basically. In the budget department, are you still spending maybe 0.6% of the $50 million, that's about $30,000 a year, in fees to make investment decisions that you as Director of Finance, I think, can do for free or nearly for free? In other words, the year before, when I started coming here and causing trouble, we were losing $5 million because interest rates were going crazy. Now, interest rates are 5%. Have you established a ladder of Treasury bills and bonds and notes which are backed by the full faith of the U.S. government, yielding over 5% these days? Are you doing that these days?
So right now, we have a lot of our PIF, capital reserve, unrestricted money in treasuries of various durations. We keep everything under a year. A lot of what we're in right now is 3-month treasuries because they're paying the highest interest rate, over 5%, as you mentioned.
Yes.
We have taken some of that and gone a little longer, upwards of a year, because who knows what's going to happen with interest rates in the next 12 months.
Who knows?
And we're trying to lock in over 4% on some of the money in 12-month treasuries. But by and large, we're pretty much sticking to short-term treasury investments right now. The other question you had is what's the purpose of our financial advisor? I'm not an investment guy. I'm more on the accounting side. Having that resource is very valuable to me. And you know, quite honestly, from a fiduciary and a liability standpoint, having an outside financial advisor is critical to the organization.
And does it cost approximately $30,000 a year to have this outside agency?
Fees, yeah.
In fees, $30,000.
Yeah, they charge a certain number of basis points per dollar invested with
I think
them.
you told me once it was 0.6%.
0.2%.
Thank you for your question, sir.
Your time is up. Thank you. We have a
When you get
timer
30
here.
seconds,
Yeah, but we can't see.
He's holding up signs that tell you how much time is left.
when you have 30 seconds.
Good morning.
Excuse me, Madam President, Director Fast has joined in.
Thank you.
Good morning. Johnny Pearson, 131078. I'm here to discuss the article that was written in the Sun Views. My understanding, there's 484 annual members that play annual pass at $15.50 apiece. That accounts to $200,000. What other members of the community make this kind of commitment each year to our retirement community? What other activities other than bowling has a fee to participate than maybe a year fee to join a club? RCSC furnishes all other activities, buildings, supervision staff, utilities, without requiring a fee to use such facility. If fees are to be increased, so should the expectation of golf course playability throughout the year. Surcharges are for the snowbirds that are only here for parts of the year. Annual pass holders support the course during the summer months with use of pro shops, stack shops, and cart rentals. I'm not opposed to an increase in the annual pass, but don't want to see it going away with. I've made a commitment to Sun City as my retirement community, and what other community or golf course does not offer an annual pass for its membership? Hopefully the board will take these in consideration when proposals are put forward to do away with the annual pass for the golfers of Sun City.
Thank you.
Good morning, one and all. Is it on? Oh, yeah, okay. Good morning, one and all. Dave Whelan, 17077. I was going through the CPA financial statement for 2021 on the RCSC, and I was reading the notes on Sun City Properties Incorporated. It's a subchapter S corporation. What that means is the stock is held by the RCSC. So it's essentially a wholly owned subsidiary. What I'm asking for is a legal opinion from our legal beagles on reincorporating as an LLC. The reason being, if the properties were sued for some oversight in the sale of a property, one of the terms is called quiet title. You could look that up and find out what it means. The corporation, not only Sun City Property Holdings, but the RCSC and the board of directors could be personally liable, could be held personally liable. Whereas with an LLC, if sued, the only assets that are in jeopardy, shall we say, are the assets of the LLC. The RCSC would be immune from the litigation, as would the board of directors. But I'm not an attorney. It's been a while since I've done this, and I really, really recommend, and I see Jeff taking notes, and Karen, that you really need a legal opinion on this. But I think it is in the best interest of the RCSC. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. Tony Wilkie, 105642. I'm talking about golf again. John put out a publication, and so I'm assuming that he is speaking for himself, but he is still a board member, so whatever he's said in there carries a lot of weight, as far as I'm concerned. He had 4 items that he highlighted. One had to do with the annual fee and surcharge, and the gentleman already spoke about that, so I'm going to leave that alone. The second one was the elimination of non-residents. My understanding is that the bringing in non-residents happened as a result of the golf courses not making enough money, and we needed more members to play, or more people to play, and it was just a cycle. Now we're on the other side of a cycle, and we have more people than we know what to do with, and hence we end up with people getting bumped. The number of non-residents only add up to 5%, which in my mind is not a big deal. In addition, I personally have made a lot of friends with non-residents, and I think that's probably true of a lot of people. So just taking them after they've helped us and dumping them doesn't sound like a good idea to me. On top of that, they're bringing in, I believe, about $450,000. We've already eliminated outside tournaments, which is probably another $250,000 or so. We, the residents, are going to end up having to pick that all up. Going back to people getting bumped, there was a test done. I still have not seen any results. I do know that they were just looking at bumps by the day of the week. I don't think that was going to show as much as what was needed. I personally ran a small test, and for members or residents looking to play at 9 o'clock or so, plus or minus an hour, 5 out of 8 people or group got bumped during that same time period. In other words, somewhere all the tee times were getting sucked up. My opinion is that that's coming from the small groups. Looking at the agenda, it seems like the small groups have been taken care of. They're not going to play during prime time. They're going to play before or after. But John suggested only November and December. And I'm thinking, what about January, February, and March, and maybe even April? Why not extend that all the way through? And Brian probably has something to say.
I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
the changes that we had made, or the tentative, I shouldn't say tentative, the agreement we came to with the small groups is that they would be moving to the fringes of the prime time, so like before 8:30 and after 11, to try to free up those really sought-after times in the winter. And as part of that, they're also going to be including the executive courses as part of their rotation. So, you know, at least once, twice a month, they'll be not utilizing the regulation courses, and will be utilizing the executive courses. So that's going to free up time as well. The notion of moving just to after 10 o'clock, I don't know if that in itself would solve anything, because we're kind of moving back into that really desirable time. So keeping them to the fringes is, I believe, going to be beneficial.
Okay, and I agree, and I said that that's in the agenda. My only question there was, are we talking about just November and December, as John brought up in his?
Our plan was to take effect in November and run all the way through April.
Okay.
Thank you.
One last item, if I could. I know I'm probably out of time. But having to do with
Sir,
raising the fees.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to let other people speak first, and then if we have
That's fine.
time, we'll certainly invite you back up. Sir?
Hi, Craig Thornburg, 161512. And first thing I wanted to bring up is back in April, Becky Webster appeared here, and she did research that all of us should have done, and that's, she compared all the outside courses and the price to play golf there to Sun City, and found that Sun City was pretty much giving away golf to the outsiders. And I hadn't heard anything more about it until I read an article by Director Nowakolski there that you're going to look into that and bring it up closer. You know, you can discount a little bit, but not 50% from the surrounding courses. The other thing I want to talk about is doing away with the annual pass and having surcharge only. When we come to Sun City, we look at Sun City. Is this place I want to live? And if so, then yeah, we buy a house. And when I did that, I paid about $4,000 to join the country club between PIF and transfer fees. And since then, now I'm looking at this as a golfer because I don't use all the other facilities. Since then, I pay $15.50 now for annual golf pass, and I pay $5.25. But a couple grand a year, almost $200 a month. $200 a month should be enough to allow me to play golf in Sun City without adding a surcharge on top of that. You talk about Del Webb's vision here of Sun City, and I think Del Webb had a vision where your normal blue-collar worker could come here and enjoy a retirement that he may not otherwise be able to afford. And Sun City supplies that. But you start working away at things like this, and you'll be taking that away, diminishing it anyway. The last thing is, if it's been mentioned, if we're really going to go to where, you know, you have to cover 50% of expenses on things, then let's do it across the board. Let's start renting out the pickleball courts to the members. Let's charge admission to the pools and spas and the clubs. You know, when you go into a club, there's air conditioning, everything you got to be paid for. Let's charge admission there every time you go into a club. I mean, if you're going to charge 50% and make people pay 50% to support this, then do it across the board. Make it fair. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Foster. My rec number is 138061. And I currently serve on the Greens Committee at Willow Creek. And Brian, I am so sorry, man. I thought everybody was going to get up here today and talk about pickleball and water volleyball and theaters and pools, and I'm like the fifth person in a row to talk about golf. So, sorry, man. However, let's start with the good stuff. And I would say, I mean, I play all the regulation size courses, and Lakes West and South have made some dramatic improvements, and so congratulations on that. Their playability, I think, has improved quite a bit. Riverview, on the other hand, has still some issues. A lot of crabgrass. There's some brown spots on the par 5 on the second 9. It's rather large. That's unfortunate. And part of the design of that course is there's a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of the valleys are getting pretty wet from the intention to not lose fairways and greens, but the water accumulates there, and you tend to get some wet spots. But we can live with that and for right now, but something to think about in the future. North, a couple weeks ago, if I was standing here, I would have said we're a year away from playing that golf course. But I was just over there this morning, and that looks amazing. The front 9, congratulations, that has really improved. Other than some thin spots on the false front on the 9th green, I think that course is ready to play, pretty much. But I mentioned to begin with that I'm on the Greens Committee at Willow Creek. And Willow Creek has a wonderful practice facility, putting greens, chipping greens, sand bunkers, and a very large driving range. And the driving range, I hate to say it, but it's embarrassing. When was the last time it was even mowed? I spent probably over an hour yesterday morning filling divots that were so deep I could hear people talking Chinese at the bottom of those divots. I know we let high school golf teams come over there, and they abuse that facility, quite honestly. And I suspect that some of those divots are some unskilled high school players who don't know any better. But it's a shame when you have a decent facility that has really lost a lot of its playability. And it's unfortunate that it's, I don't know how else to describe it, but embarrassing. Brown spots on probably 5 of the greens on the back 9. So I guess those were my concerns. I hope that we can improve some of the things, especially that practice facility, which is really the best one, I think, of all the Sun City courses. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just make a couple?
Sir, excuse me, please. I believe that Tom was up first.
Madam President,
Yes.
can I address just a
Yes.
couple of those?
Yes.
As far as the driving range at Willow Creek, I do agree that it's generally a nice facility. The issue with Willow Creek's driving range is it doesn't have a lot of front to back, so the divots do accumulate very quickly, and it's probably time to get the mats out and utilize those for the, like you said, the high schools could probably be made to use just the mats and save the grass for the facilities. As far as the greens go, I went around with the superintendent last week, and the spots that still hadn't healed from when we aerified, we aerified at the peak of the heat, so that took a toll, but I also asked him to have someone come out and do some soil testing to make sure that the brown spots are just beyond turf loss and not some type of disease that we cannot see visually. So hope that helps.
Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, Tom Swenson, 135906. I am with players, most people understand, but I also am talking today mostly as a resident, as a citizen. But for that, the golfing gentleman before me, I think he was disappointed that we hadn't talked about the Performing Arts Center or Mountain View, so I came up to take care of that for him. And he talked about there being some thin spots on the false front of some of the holes. Well, welcome to the club. Anyway, I want to talk about some serious matters here. I've been diligently going to the SAC meetings, and I think most anyone will say that that last meeting was pretty much a dissolution into disarray. And I want to talk about that going back a bit. This current board, over the last, 2 years, has been brought in on the banner of three things: transparency, fiscal responsibility, and returning to the abiding the rules, which are all admirable. But I don't think you've lived up to your mission, honestly. On the transparency, one big issue I have is that they just brought an architect in to help with the planning for Mountain View. We don't know that process, how that ever happened. I have written to 3 or 4 people on the board in various levels of responsibility asking for the contract with the architect, because my understanding from early on was she was going to be brought in, he or she was going to be brought in to assess 3 things and 3 things only. It was a one-time shot kind of thing. She was going to say, should we renovate Mountain View Theater, Performing Arts Center? Should we break it down and build a new one, or should we build it Lakeview? When she came in, she started talking about the master plan for the entire Mountain View campus. And she started talking about the huge overview of what should be at Lakeview. Well, that's not transparency, because I just learned today I have to fill out a special form to get that contract for the architect, because it seems like she's going to be the architect for this project. And I want to know by what system the board reviewed all these architects, or had a subcommittee do that, and came up with the architect, the new architect for Mountain View, and now Lakeview. So that bothers me greatly. I've kept drumming on the fiscal responsibility point. $375,000 approximately thrown away that the previous architects have spent. We gave it to them, and their plans are now moot. There's no way of using those. So that's money lost. The consensus, from what I heard from the SAC members, is building costs have gone up some 30% in the last period of time that this delay has been happening. Well, if you look at a roughly $30 million project overall, thank you, Steve, looking overall $30 million, that's $9 million of value lost. So could the board please explain to me whether that demonstrates any fiscal responsibility to have lost nearly $10 million by this hold on Mountain View? And that's conservative figures, because the delay's gone on for much longer than the last couple years. Now, returning to abiding by the rules, the composition of SAC was somehow decided outside of the regular board meeting time. Because I looked through the charter, and all it says is you're supposed to focus on Mountain View only. The structure of the group was to be determined somewhere else. Well, that was behind closed doors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ron Micel, 138-403. I'd like to start with the Bell parking lot. I don't know if anybody has a chance to walk the area, but so from what I understand, when they put down the aggregate and then they put down the slurry, something happened after that. If you look at the parking lot, there's grooves from the tires. I have a short video, if we could play that.
We only have 3 minutes for your time, sir.
Okay.
Do we have it? Roll it.
So that's the parking lot. $150,000 from what I understand. And the pictures don't do it any justice. You got to go out there and see. The pebbles that are in the bowling alley, they have to sweep the bowling alley to get the pebbles off so they don't get on the lanes. And you can show the next slide too. I called somebody and they said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a striping problem. I'm only telling you the truth. I don't know. Was that Mike who I spoke to? Did you tell me that was just a striping problem?
Not just. I can add some detail here. Well, first off, let's look at some of these pictures and wonder how those tire tracks and damage got caused. You know, we had a 2-week window where, you know, trying to keep the Bell facility open while you're trying to pave the entire parking lot is no easy trick. So we roped off sections at a time, coned them, taped them, and that's where the contractor was doing the work. But we have numerous instances where inconsiderate members and or guests removed the barriers and drove into the areas that were being worked on.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
That's fine. I have witnesses. I have staff.
Okay, I'm running out of time. That's fine. You can deal with that. Can they run the next one about the golf? There's a couple slides. I gave you some pictures. If you could pass them down, that's the quality of the golf courses.
You're passing them to him or you're passing them to us?
These are some of the pictures that I've taken.
I think, is it one photo or is it all photos? It's all different photos.
Okay, so there are a lot of weeds. There are a lot of weeds on the greens. There are bare spots. The streams over at Riverview and Willow Creek, if you step in them, I guarantee you will slip and you'll be on your butt. It happened to me. There's no sign saying, don't walk in this area. It's pretty, we drove there yesterday with Jeff, and it's all sludge in there. Why can't it be clean? So between Willow Creek and Riverview, look at the greens. That should never be. You can't come up with a good enough excuse to tell us why the greens are in such poor shape. And we golfed there on Saturday at Riverview, and there are literally thousands of little, like ant holes. Like when an ant comes up, he leaves a little bit of sand. There were thousands of them on every single green. And I'm concerned that if that's a disease or what. We went there on Sunday morning, and they mowed it, so it was all gone. Don't know if it's going to repeat or not. But look at the weeds on the green. And look at that. That's ugly. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good morning, Diane Hall, 155953. I am here primarily regarding golf issues. I don't have complaints about the condition of the courses. My husband and I are what someone else was referring to earlier. We are normal blue-collar workers. We research Sun City, we research the golf courses, we research the costs because we're on retirement, we're now on fixed income. It's a stretch for us to pay the full membership to start with. If you get rid of the full memberships and make it a partial membership or a pay-as-you-play, we'll be priced out because we, like many people out here, are on fixed incomes and we have a budget. We operate within our budget. I love our golf courses. I understand they're not premier golf courses, but they're really good golf courses. As far as the non-resident passes, it is such a small percentage of golfers, and like many other golfers here, I have family and friends who have non-resident golf passes, and I don't know that they would be able to afford to play anywhere else or buy a membership anywhere else if they could not any longer purchase a non-resident pass for the Sun City courses. You know, maybe the Golf Now, and this was suggested to me by a playing partner of mine, maybe the Golf Now rates and all the pay-as-you-play rates for public members need to be increased more. Maybe we do need to charge more in addition to our now $525 a year for access to facilities. Maybe we do need to charge for pickleball courts and the pools and whatever nominal fees. But it seems like up to this point, and this is only my third year here, it seems like the golf community carries a large portion of the burden when there's a fiscal issue. And I don't think the golfers should be carrying 80% of the burden for fiscal issues. I have one issue regarding the condition of the golf courses, and it doesn't have to do with maintenance of the golf courses. It has to do with, and this is going to be very unpopular in this room, I apologize, but there are an awful lot of people out there with handicap tags. Now, a handicap tag is issued one time for your golf cart, and even if it's a temporary disability, there is no method to revisit that annually to make sure that that still is a valid disabled pass. There's a lot of people with the disabled passes who park right up next to the greens, and I understand there's a few people who need that, but I don't think that 5% of our golfers need that. So I really think that there should be a method to review the status of the handicap tags for golf carts.
Madam President.
Yes.
As far as the handicap tags go, when an individual comes in with a temporary disability, we do put an expiration date on their card so that if they're ever asked, when they're asked to show their card, if it's out of date, that they would be reminded that they're no longer, so. Okay. I can certainly follow up with staff to make sure that they're, make sure the rangers are checking a little more frequently, and if we're handing out a flag, that we're checking the card. Yeah.
Excuse me. Ma'am, you were...
Oh, hi. I was just here next, but, okay.
That's fine.
Then,
I just don't know when to cut in.
No, she actually was there first.
I was there first. I'm not cutting.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi. My name is Celeste Highland, and it's 10422 West Sherrill Drive, and I'm a member of the Sun City Players Community Theater. And I would just like to ask the board, when the theater gets demolished, torn down, is there a plan so that our club has a place to actually perform its club-like duties, which include productions for our community? Because right now, we're not sure of any kind of a timeline. And everyone, we need at least a year. We have to select a production. We have to get contracts. We have to find a director. We have to audition. It's a time-consuming project, and we can't just do that in like 2 months. So, and we don't feel confident. We don't know what's going on because no one from the board or from the management team has come to us to give us a tentative timeline of when all these things are going to happen. And then when it does happen, will we have the facilities we need? You know, our production needs some lighting, some sound, approximately $25,000, and that's lowball considering what a real full-length Performing Arts Center would use, just so we can produce our productions for our community. So we hope the board will make a responsible decision soon and will give our club the timeline that it needs so that we can prepare for this move. We've been sitting out in limbo for like, right now with the present talks for a couple of years. This affects the selection of the productions we pick, how many we pick, when we can perform. So this is all of this lack of determination on what's going to happen is seriously impacting our club, a club that's been in this city since almost the inception of Sun City. The other thing I'd like to say is this. Over at Oakmont, in one of the, in the SAC room, it says, what would Del Webb do? Well, I'll tell you what I think Del Webb would do. He was a visionary. He had insight. He thought ahead of the time. He was ahead of the curve. That's what our community really should have, ahead of the curve, great. Thank you. Ahead of the curve, great performance facility for our people. That's comfortable seating. We have people who won't even come to the movies because they can't sit there through a movie, let alone through our productions. We need good seating for all our people, no matter what their physical handicapping or non-handicapping conditions are. And stadium seating is not going to do it. So I would like you to please consider where we've been and help us so we can plan for the future entertainment for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. My number is 162756. I'm at 10734 West Canterbury Drive. And I'm here today to talk about the Mountain View. I guess they're going to build a new Mountain View or something. And when I decided to move to Arizona, I checked out a lot of areas, and Sun City seemed the best for me and my husband. And one of the reasons was the low taxes and the low rec fee. And because I'm not really too familiar with it, we've only been here less than 2 years. I know that the rec fee now is $525, and I do expect it to go up. But Sun City West, I think their rec fee is $1,040 per person. And that's my concern with this Mountain View to the tune of $30 million. I mean, are we going to outprice ourselves? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I don't know how many people go to the theater. I know we go on Saturday and we sit in chairs like this. We bring our little cushions in that. But I just really worry that we're going to get knocked out of the box. We've been here, like I said, 2 years. I hardly see our neighbors. I don't see anybody on the streets. How many people are using the pools? It's like a percentage. Everybody's paying, but how many people are using the facilities? So I don't think they'd like to be bumped up another $500 a year per person, and that's why I'm here. So I just want my thoughts to be known and take it into consideration. And I'd like to thank everyone for their time. Thank you.
So, ma'am, if I could just make a quick response here, because this is sort of called an exchange. I just wanted to let you know that.
I was so nervous today. You got to excuse
Don't
me.
worry. Thank
I'm
you.
ready. I bet my face is as red as my hair.
We're glad you're here. But I do want to assure you that we do carefully track numbers, and we have something on the order, I think, of 1.3 million individual sign-ins to the rec centers that we have every year, and we have that further broken down into each of the categories that exist. So we do track that, and we try to make sure that we are making our decisions based on the data of participation.
Right.
So.
And you know what? As long as it's fair and just to everybody. I'm hearing a lot about golf. I don't golf. My husband doesn't golf. But not everybody should carry the load, but I just get really worried, like, it's kind of, well, I don't know, from Chicago, champagne taste and a beer budget. I kind of worry about those pennies, so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Dan Hill, 49271. Who started this rumor, or John made an article in the Sun Views about annual golf pass going to a surcharge annual golf pass? Who came up with that idea? John, did you? Brian, did you? Why do we need to change the $1,550 and the $800? Who came up with that suggestion? We have no hands, do we?
I'm sorry, sir, could you repeat that?
Really?
We have no, I didn't catch that last part.
Who came up with fiddling with the no annual fee golf pass, $1,550, and the surcharge, $800?
I'm waving my hand.
Yeah, and it's in response to months and months and months, practically over a year, of people in the audience advising us that they wanted the non-resident golfers gone. And we made it very clear, I think, that if for that to happen, the rates for resident golfers were going to have to increase. We're talking about $400,000 that comes in as a result of these non-resident golfers. But the members were very adamant that the non-resident golfers had to go. And this is one of potentially many alternatives to doing what the members have asked us to do.
That only represents 8,000 people versus 100,000 resident playing. That's a small incremental amount, in my view. Why should it affect the Sun citizens living here, using the facility, paying the annual golf pass of $550 or $1,550? I play golf 4 times a week, except when it's 90 degrees at 4 o'clock in the morning. But I'm paying well over $2,000 to play golf, having paid the $1,550 fee. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's going to affect the attitude of the Sun citizens who are avid golfers. And we need to come up with another solution to this, perhaps agreeing with the other speakers, charge the pickleball players to play, using the swimming pools. It seems like everybody picks on golf. And
but the only one affected here is golf.
Pardon me?
The only ones affected here is golf, because you wanted the non-resident golfers gone.
Not necessarily true.
Well,
just charge them more money.
I've heard that a couple of times today. And we did raise, and Brian can speak to this, we've raised them a number of times, okay? But that did not change the effect of what people were saying to us about the non-resident golfers.
Who are they?
Yes.
John, do you have a remark to this, or a support why you came up with that idea?
I want to say something. The non-residents that they were talking about are the ones with the passes, okay? And I got to say, they don't pay for their golf. Because if you give them a pass for $3,200 and you give them a free golf cart, and they play 100 rounds, how much did it cost them? Minus the cost that they would have had to pay for the golf cart. So they're not even paying close to that $3,200 when you're throwing in a golf cart. That's been my argument I brought forth the last 3 years here. If you're giving them something to make them play that's costing you revenue, they're not paying that $450,000. It's showing up on the books, but you gave them half of it. And that's the problem that we have, things like that.
I urge you to take a look at, we record these meetings, and I urge you to take a look at some of those recordings about how they were trampling the course, how they could reserve golf carts but members couldn't, how they were paying less for a round of golf than members.
Well, I agree.
We seem to have kind of forgotten what golfers had to say about the non-resident golfers.
I agree, eliminating non-resident pay. I agree with that 100%, but don't ding us for, 8% of the revenue being generated by outside golfers versus 92% being generated by Sun citizens playing golf and enjoying their no annual fee golf pass for $15.50, rather than talking about raising the surcharge annual golf pass to $900 and raising the surcharge to $9 versus $5 and $7. That's ridiculous.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you.
Sir?
Preston Kice, 133903. Everybody has a right to put an opinion in the paper. But when someone puts an opinion in the paper and identifies themselves as a board member of an organization, that puts an unreasonable amount of weight to their words, and I think it's inappropriate for someone to put an article in the paper and identify themselves as a board member as opposed to a private citizen, because it's not right. The annual no-fee holders, according to the information that Mr. Novakowski has, and I have the data with me, is about $12.19 a round, correct? And for $16.63 for the people that pay a fee and then that. Instead of throwing out the baby and getting rid of the annual fee, why not just increase it so that you have a rate that's commensurate with what the people are paying if they have a fee, plus they pay a daily rate. The no fee pass helps the people in the golf pro shops because it's a much more streamlined process to get somebody through and get them onto the course. You put your card out, you get a print, and you're gone, as opposed to putting in a credit card, getting something out of your account, paying cash. It's a more time-consuming process. If you get rid of all those annual passes, all those guys playing golf, you're going to increase wait times and you're going to increase the burden on the staff in the pro shops. Golf is currently profitable, has been for a few years. The proposal that was put in the paper is an idea to increase revenue in the golf courses, which I'm for, I agree. The problem is the proposal doesn't say, what are we going to do with the increased money? My understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the extra money that comes out of the golf fees goes into the general fund now. Then where does it go? That was we've had this discussion before, and that's what I was told. Anybody? Bueller?
Kevin, I'm turning to Kevin. Kevin?
So, a couple things. Up until fairly recently, golf was not profitable.
True.
On an operating basis.
Mm-hmm.
COVID has really upped our golf numbers, and we are now at a point where golf on an operating basis is
Can you
profitable.
make it quick? I only have 3 minutes.
I need to explain this
Then
in detail.
I should get more than 3 minutes.
And you can turn the time clock off.
Thank you.
If you look at what golf also consumes from a capital project standpoint, golf does not make money every
But
year.
that's true of everything, whether it's pickleball, tennis, whatever, everything
I'm
has
not
a
saying
cost.
that. You asked a specific question, and I'm trying to answer it.
But if
okay?
you're going to pick on golf for
I'm
this, you
trying
have
to
to
answer
separate
it.
the funds out.
I'm trying to answer your question.
Okay?
Okay? On an operating basis, right now, golf is making money. Golf is generating a profit. When you take into account what we also spend on capital projects, golf is not making money. Golf is not contributing to the organization as a whole. That's the answer to your question.
True, but isn't that true of every activity in Sun City? Not just golf?
Golf and bowling are the only activities where participation requires a fee.
True. But the other activities also have capital expenditures and upkeep and things like that, so golf is in the same sort of pot with that.
I'm not arguing that case.
Okay.
I'm specifically answering the question about, is golf contributing money toward the organization?
So the excess money for golf goes where now?
There is no excess money when you take into account what we have to spend on capital projects for golf.
Okay, we'll move on then. The other thing is, as people have mentioned, our courses are not as well maintained as other courses around. If you look at Sun City West, Sun City Grand, public courses, they're just not as well maintained. So if we're going to talk about increasing fees for golf, which I'm okay for, as long as that money is used to improve the quality of our courses and the playability. There's a number of ways to skin this cat, and the appropriate way to do it is to have a proposal like this given to the Golf Advisory Council, which is set up as your structure to provide you with this information, and let them provide you revenues instead of going rogue in the paper, identifying yourself as a board member.
Excuse me, sir, I'm going to address that because nobody went rogue. This membership has asked us to provide transparency, and there's hardly any ways that we could be more transparent to you, even though people continue to get up and say you're not being transparent, okay? We could have created a motion, we could have waited to the motion, we could have dropped the motion, but no. Instead, we presented an idea so the membership would have an opportunity to do what they're doing today, which is commenting to this idea.
Okay, but the idea should go through your structures. I spent 30 years in the Air Force. I know about structure and chain of command. And it should have gone through and been vetted to the Golf Advisory Council before it went up and went out to the general public, which was not done.
Well, in this particular instance, this meeting came first. This will, of course, be
Then you should have
addressed, and it's
waited-
been addressed.
Then you should have waited until after the meeting and after the Golf Advisory Council met, ma'am.
I'll grant you that.
Okay, thank you.
Christy Dorsch, 124740, I remembered. I just want to say that I believe we need to raise the prices because I feel like we're living in the 1990s with our prices and we're in 2023. I'm on the advisory and we had to give up part of our seating so we could have one area seated, but then we had to give up another part to be seated. And I don't think that's right. Some people can't get to where the greens, the fairways are because they're in the rough now because we had to give up that part for seed. So I think we need to raise them, maybe not bang, here we are, but you guys need a plan that goes in a stage that goes up slowly, but enough that we have a golf course that doesn't look like something I played in Iowa on a 9-hole course in the country. And also, I'm trying to get lights on Willow Creek because our parking lot is really, really dark, and when you go sign up at 6:30 in the morning, you can't see. You can't even find your car when you come out. So somebody's going to get hurt. And I don't know if even we could get 2 lights there, something, because you have to use a flashlight. And I would hate to see somebody break their leg. So, but I just know that we need to do something because the weeds are taking over, there's dead grass everywhere. And I came here to play golf. I didn't come here to play a golf course that I played in Iowa for the same amount of price I'm paying here. I know. To get something you want, you got to pay for it. So that's all I got to say.
Madam President,
Yes, Director
could I
Collins.
respond to some of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am, this board is trying to address those issues of the weeds and all the problems. In the past, it's been, let's just show a profit. However we have to do it, let's do that. And that's not what we want. We don't care if there's a profit if we're maintaining and making the courses better. It may cost more to do it, but Mr. Darbit can back me up on this. We have already said the money that is going to be raised by the golf should stay in the golf and pay the bills and make the things better in the courses. not thrown into the general fund to fix paved parking lots at Bell, okay? And we really believe that. And showing you on paper, hey, don't worry, we made a profit. We don't want to just do that. And the other problem is we always said, we played 350,000 rounds this year. That's 25,000 more than last year. Well, that doesn't mean much if you paid less money for the rounds. We need to go by how much a round of golf costs. Right now, it's $22 a round to break us even. And that's kind of the way we have to go, by the rounds, amount paid per round, not by how many rounds we can put in there and stomp our grass and trample it and everything else. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Joanne Greeny, 106561. First of all, thank you, because you only took 2 months off this summer for these board meetings. I really appreciate that. I do think that we do need to keep these meetings on an ongoing basis as much as possible. And taking 3 months off, they only do that in Europe, right? Number one issue on my list is, we've talked about this a few times, about this 9 a.m. starting time. And 9 a.m. is when everywhere it's so busy. You've got, even your farmer's market is only on Thursdays from 9 till 1. So you're here from 9 till noon. All of your little craft stores, the silver shop and the pottery stores that I like to go shopping to every now and then, well, they're only open typically from 9 till 1 or 3. And so there's all those employees, all those volunteers that also cannot attend this meeting. You've got a lot of employees that I'm sure work in your corporate office that are residents that wouldn't mind attending this meeting. Watching it on YouTube does not have quite the same effect. I would really, really like us to take a look again at a different time than 9 a.m. Sorry for the employees that might need to work a little bit later. Point number 2 is, on Sundays, I noticed that, pickleball gets to play and golf is playing, and we get to go to the rec centers, most of them at 8 a.m. And I am wondering if there is a possibility of opening the bowling alleys, sorry, Mike, at 8 a.m. This last week, I did go at 12 noon when it was open, and it was surprisingly full. And so I'm just wondering if, since everybody else gets to do their activities, hopefully we'll take a look at bowling for an earlier start time on Sundays. And third point is, I've attended most of these SAC meetings, and talk about round robin. Please, let's make the decision to keep the pack at Mountain View. Let's get it started, and then pickleball, you can have the rest of the entire Mountain View course, the entire acreage there can go to pickleball, but the pack has been waiting over 5 years. So thank you for all of your time and effort. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Brad,
And
Brad Zimmerman, 149328. I believe that's my wife's number because nobody comes after me. Okay. I didn't expect to talk today, but it seems there's a lot going on. I was here at a meeting, probably 3 months ago when this golf thing came up and everything, and I just want to say real quick because my time's short. We had discussed getting rid of the golf now and the outside coupon things that are killing us here too with outside play. Guys are coming in, booking on booknow.com, Golf Now, and all that stuff, and they save a lot of money that way. Get rid of that. We had talked about moving the tournaments to the weekends, make more available play time, different things that went on that way. I think if you just get rid of the outside coupon stuff and let the outside people pay to play golf here. They don't pay to play golf here. That's why they're here and we're buried in golf, is because it's so cheap. I mean, summer rates everywhere are low, I understand that, but Verado and these places go from $55 in the summer to $180 in the winter. Better golf courses, I understand that, but they all do that. Every golf course raises their rates in the winter times. I don't know if we seem to do that here. Real quick, another thing this lady here was talking about, her rehearsals and stuff like that. When I was here, there was a gentleman stood up, and I believe he talked to Mr. Nowakowski about getting a guarantee that they can start their season. He said, yes, no matter what we decide on Mountain View, nothing will happen for a year. We guarantee you go right ahead and start. Okay, that's what I understood. That's what happened here.
That was a comment made by Mr. Whiproot, so yes, that's correct. He said they had no issues
right,
through
because nothing was going to be
2024.
done anyhow, even if you decided. This gentleman here talking about the architect fees and stuff, and I want to mention that Sun City, I remember, was always a volunteer community, and we get a paper in our driveway all the time that comes in. I've thought, has anybody thought about just taking the front page and saying, listen, we're in a situation here with Mountain View, and we keep sending it back to these architects. I had a construction company for 40 years. Is there an architect, an engineer, a designer, an old inspector, anything willing to volunteer and help us with that stuff? And I'm sure you'll get some people that'll come in and say, yes, we can do this without sending money. These companies are loving it that we're dragging this out. They're loving it. I think we can do this in-house, because I think you could get a plan done in-house from volunteers, which would be good enough to still send out for bids and get through the county. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, yes,
I just wanted to clear something up on the Golf Now comments.
yes.
The people that play Golf Now are not receiving any coupon rates. They're actually paying, right now, the rates that we publish on Golf Now are public rates that are posted in the pro shop. So if you're booking through Golf Now, and hopefully they're not listening to this, they're actually paying more to book through Golf Now than they would if they would call the pro shop. Because what they're paying Golf Now for the convenience of being able to wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and book at tee time if they so choose online. But they're basically paying a convenience fee to Golf Now, and they're paying the same rates that they would have paid us if they had called us on the telephone. Yeah. So since I've been here, the Golf Now rate has more than doubled from when I got here, and we're planning on another 20% increase next year. So it continues to go up at a rate higher than resident play.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes, Director Collins.
One thing to add there, when you're talking Golf Now, our residents get to pick their tee times, in 5 days in advance. They are not allowed to do that. So the ones they're picking are leftovers, open ones, or three, I meant three. But they're leftover ones that would have been an empty slot. That's what we let them pick on the day of golfing or whatever. But the residents have already had their pick. So just don't get that part confused where they're getting ahead of you in selection, because that's not true.
Thank you. Sir?
Tad Daughters, 117436. There was a mention of transparency a little while ago. I'm interested in finding out from the board the transparency on a SAC committee that was chosen for Mountain View, being tasked now with the master plan for Lakeview as well. Why Lakeview people are not represented for any changes there. And just second, what is the transparency on the choice of architect for the informational approach for the SAC? Thank you.
Let me see if I can actually address that for you. It's called the Strategic Alternatives Committee. And so what they were tasked with was looking at all alternatives. They've talked about Lakeview, they've talked about Bell. They're looking at every aspect of this process. And the community is well represented, especially the players. Bill Laszlo attends those meetings, and he can keep the players as informed as he chooses. With regard to the the architect who is presently assisting the SAC was brought in as a specialist to talk about placement and cost estimation for the project. And that's what she's currently working on. She's helping the members of the SAC to fully understand exactly what can be put on the current Mountain View footprint, and also giving some consideration to one potential alternative, which would be Lakeview. The community as a whole is very represented on the SAC. These meetings are recorded. You can watch them. You can attend them.
What I'm saying is that the setup of the SAC was from clubs at Mountain View and residents at large from the Mountain View neighborhood. There was no representation from Lakeview, and the original approach for SAC, as I understood it, was to look at what was going to be done at Mountain View. That has been expanded, to the best of my knowledge, without the permission of this board.
That would be incorrect. It's the Strategic Alternatives Committee. It needs to look at every potential alternative. And one of the first straw polls that was taken, the vote was 50% Mountain View and 50% Lakeview. So to say that Lakeview is not represented would be a misnomer.
I've just been given the original charter for the SAC to develop and present strategic alternatives to our members by our members for the currently suspended PIF budgeted project at Mountain View.
Absolutely correct. You just supported my position. Thank you.
And that does not cover Lakeview.
That would be incorrect, sir. Ms. Bjork?
I was going to wait until the end because I was actually just coming up here to comment that I am very impressed with the job that you guys are doing. I'm thankful that you have turned the ship around and that immediately we see the maintenance that has been neglected for all these years has been getting taken care of. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. It's a tough job, and thank you, Mr. McCurdy, for stepping up because I know it's not easy, and you've been doing a phenomenal job. So, yeah, no. So I just wanted to say thank you. But now, with all these golf comments, I'm going to have to say something about what my opinion is. So, number one, I appreciate the fact that, John, you put that in the paper. Now, granted, you offered him before the advisory committee, okay. But if there's something that you guys want to publish, if I'm in agreement with it, I'll put my name on it. I don't care. You're getting members, just like the new one you just saw come today, because she probably reads the Sun Views, and so she's attending. So that's good. But in that article, I quickly read through it, and I didn't get the impression that you were moving away from the annual fee or the annual pass for members. I got the impression that you were just going to increase the surcharges, because I do think the annual passes, although they can be increased because our golf is extremely low, is a good idea. I don't think moving away from it is completely the best idea, because people do come here to golf for the 7 golf courses that we have. The one comment that really struck a chord with me, because no other golf course, if you went around, would do this, is the 5 sums, the mandatory 5 sums. We're increasing the trampling on the golf courses. The idea is to get rid of those cheap memberships. And yes, while one gentleman said they helped us, actually, we gave them a screaming deal to come play here. That you can't get golf for that anywhere in the state. And so it's those memberships that have to be either completely raised and not just in little increments to keep them. They'll either pay to play here or they won't. And that, the golf has been a mess for a while, and that needs to turn around. But the bottom line is, I really do appreciate what you're doing. I can see what you're doing as far as the architect. I think you did the right thing because there was something wrong with the way the previous architect was brought on, and we all know it. And so testing this one out by having her help you, probably a good idea, but I would urge that you go through the proper channels. So thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mike Matthews, 48281. Just a comment about golf. The groups, I run a group, and I'm also in the SCMGA. And to me, the SCMGA and the SCWGA are the biggest groups we have in Sun City. And everything's been about the small groups. And I'm not after the SCMGA and the SCWGA, but I think when they can have, right now, in the business policy 17, they can have a maximum of 47 events a year, is what it says in here, plus other things like team play and some other tournaments. I'm just saying that we need to, or Brian needs to look at the business of these SCMGA and SCWGA events be on the outskirts of whatever the preferred tee times are. Okay, and not scheduled during the preferred tee times, similar to the small groups. So just to make it more fair for everybody else, because if people are still complaining that they cannot get a tee time, okay, this is another way of potentially getting some more additional tee times. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And with that, if you don't mind, we've been at this for about an hour and a half. Perhaps a 10-minute break would be in order. Thank you.
Yep, I'm going up there. I'll volunteer. Are we ready?
I think we are probably ready to resume. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Carol Harrington, 113970. I'm going to speak about golf. First, I want to say the area of improvement on Willow Creek between number 2 and number 8 is beautiful. And if that's what's called a capital project, I'm all for it. We need to do more and more of that to preserve water. And it's beautiful. Okay, South and Lakes West, in my opinion, are in amazing condition. So those superintendents are doing a phenomenal job. I would like to float the idea that we create a position of a superintendent that oversees the other superintendents. Because we have Brian, and then we have all the superintendents, and Brian has a lot to do. So if there was a superintendent who that was his focus, was to get those other superintendents in line, I think that would be phenomenal. The crabgrass on the greens, the weeds are just terrible. We know that. The other thing, I'm curious about the sand traps and who makes the decisions on those. At South, you can get in and get out of a sand trap without risking your life. At North, you need mountain climbing gear to get up those banks. And I'd like to know who decides that. We're a senior community. I'll let you answer in just a second, Brian. Okay. Riverview has absolute swamp lands. There are areas in low spots around sprinklers. And I really think part of the problem is maintenance people drive through them because it's dark when they're out there. Let's see. As far as handicapped people tags, I'll tell you, we live on the green, 16th green of Willow Creek. It's not just the people with handicap tags. Those golfers park, if this is the edge of the green, they park right. And you're never going to be able to legislate people's behavior on the golf course. If they're going to litter, they're going to litter. If they're going to trash the greens, they're going to trash the greens. I would just hope that we all can encourage our player friends. The last thing that I want to say is we've got to raise the rates. We really need to. I checked with Steve. If outside players with a cart are paying about $12 a round, that is just ludicrous. I have an annual pass. I pay $15.50. I don't know how much we need to increase it, but I get my money's worth. I would pay $2,000 easily. And there you go. I mean, maybe that's not a good figure, and maybe everybody can't do 2,000, but we got to raise the rates. That's all.
Thank you. And give Carol one moment, please. She's volunteered to be our timekeeper, so let her get on her perch and.
Madam President. Alan, can you turn? Thank you. Madam President, I just a chance to respond to.
Yes.
Thank you. As far as the bunker design, those decisions were made, when we did our overall master plan back in 2010, probably before I was even here. Sand traps are probably the one area of the golf course that you can use to set aside or make the course visually different. All of our courses are fairly flat. So the decision was made at that time to at least create some character within the golf courses utilizing sand traps. Now, I will agree that if you're going up the face of a sand trap at North, you probably do need mountain climbing equipment, but you're not supposed to be climbing up the face of any sand trap. They're all made for easy ingress and egress if you utilize the low part of the bunkers in the back. So it may not always be convenient when your ball's right there, but that was the design concept for the bunkers at North.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Carol Aaron, 22036. We talked, and I totally agree with, the rates. We've got the cheapest golf in town, in the valley. We need to increase all of everybody. The outside play, the passes, the full passes. I would not like to see the full passes taken away, but they can be increased, the surcharge can be increased, everything can be increased to fit within our budget. I don't agree with the one guy that mentioned the 47 things for the Sun City Women's Golf Association and the Men's Golf Association. We don't even come close to having that many events. And Brian attested to that because I asked him after the break or during the break. But it just needs to be increased. We have a really good deal here. And if we need more money to make it a nice place to golf at, hey, everybody should contribute. The golfers I'm talking about. I'm not talking about everybody else. I think we have a really decent deal, and we need to keep it, at a good rate, but not. I don't want us to be comparable to Sun City West. Their courses are nicer than ours. A lot of the courses around, but we certainly can use a increase. Thanks.
Thank you.
You get what you pay.
Good. First, I'd like to say I wouldn't be here, I've never been in one of these if it wasn't for the article in the paper. Those are suggestions. I don't agree with them, but they are suggestions. The beginning of the article was everything's great, and then in the middle it was we need to fix it. So I was trying to figure out everything's great, what do we need to fix? Well, I found out people are complaining they don't want outside play. Reduced outside play, I agree with. Eliminating, I do not. Because outside play keeps our costs down. That's why we all live here. Inexpensive golf. Do our rates need to go up? Maybe a little. They haven't gone up in a while. But I think the outside play rates definitely need to go up to where the outside rates are comparable to other courses outside. I don't want to pay the same rate as Sun City West, but that outside player should pay a higher rate. As far as available tee times, when I worked in a pro shop, if you called in 4 or 5 days in advance, of course this was a few years ago, I could have got you a tee time. I think where the people are complaining about not getting a tee time is this new tee time system. They're getting bumped out. They're already in the works with that with the small groups. Let's see how that works. I think straight sheets helped out because your prime time in the wintertime is between 10 and 12 or 9 and 11. And when you're doing split sheets, you have no tee times on those prime rates. So I would say either get rid of split sheets or reduce them even more than what they already have. Although I don't agree with Brian on everything, I think he's doing an excellent job. I think the courses for what we pay, what'd you say we pay? $12 around? Something like that, $14 around? Tell me where you can get $12 round of golf in the course these conditions are. They're in a pretty darn good shape for that. Are they Pebble Beach? No, but I'm not paying $10,000 a year to play golf either. So could they use improvement at times? Yes, and I think some of the times when I've seen the courses of condition deteriorate, I think they do get on it. Brian eventually gets on it and gets them fixed. So I think that's something he does pay attention to. I agree with the one superintendent. I wish the old superintendent of Riverview was still here and put him in charge, because I think since he's left, Riverview's gone down. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one other thing. I think what people complain about as far as getting a tee time like today, like I want to go today or tomorrow, one, you got to do a little bit of planning, and two, maybe those prime tee times between 9, 10 o'clock don't allow the public to play. So that's just a suggestion.
Thank you. Director Collins.
Madam President?
Yes, a couple things there. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Now, the outside play was for outside passes, okay? Because with the golf cart in there, you take the price of the golf cart off of what they paid, and that's where we lose money. On the paper, on books, it shows we're making this amount of money. But not only did we lose the golf cart revenue, but we could have rented those golf carts to someone else. So that's one issue. The other one was when you said $12 or $13 a round, our problem is our break-even number is 22. So that's where there's a little issue. And as far as the courses, I agree 100%, but I think we need boots on the ground. Brian's only one person, but he's got people underneath him that need to be walking these courses and looking and telling him when something is not right, whether it's weeds or whatever. I think somewhere along the lines we've lost the boots on the ground, and that's a major part, I think, what we need to get back, the supervision of the courses themselves and looking at issues. So I shouldn't have to walk it when a resident complains and say, this is terrible. Someone should have already done that, an employee, and someone should be held accountable for those things. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also would like to make one brief comment for myself as well, because I refer to the non-resident golfers being gone, but the non-resident walk-ons will remain.
Anita Borski, 136312. I have nothing to say about golf. Yay. Kevin, you're on the hot seat. I keep hearing about where we have a dire need, our buildings have all this maintenance that's been deferred that we need to take care of. Do you have a number of what that comes out to be? Is it 10 million, 40 million?
So the number that we've come up with, and again, this is very high level number, but it's 20 million.
20 million.
And
okay.
where that number comes from is we have what's called a reserve study. And that reserve study is a fancy name for a big ass spreadsheet with 2,500 asset items on it that have a purchase date, an estimated useful life, which you can then calculate, hey, when do I need to replace this? Now, these are all assumptions and estimates, but if you look at that spreadsheet and say, what should we have replaced by now, by 2024? That number comes out to about $20 million. Now, if you buy a truck and you say, hey, this truck has a useful life of 8 years, that doesn't mean 8 years from now you have to replace it, right? And we tend to get a lot of usage out of our assets, right? Brian has some very old golf equipment that he's using out on those golf courses. Does it still work? Yes. Would it be better if we had a new piece of equipment? Yes. But that's where I hesitate greatly to say we have to spend $20 million in the next year to replace this stuff, because that's not true. But that gives you an estimate of where we are with respect to, routine replacement of our assets as they come up to the end of their useful life.
Okay, the 2023 budget, there are some things you're not going to get done that you have on the list.
Well, there are a couple things on there. I'll give you a good example. We have $400,000 project to resurface the fairway lawn bowling court. That project was put on hold by a previous board. We're not going to get that done this year because I'm not even sure whether we need to get that done or have to get that done. Mike's crew is doing a lot of work to complete the $3.4 million worth of capital projects this year. Will a couple of them bleed over into next year? Yes. We do allow that to happen, and it happens a lot.
Does the budget bleed over then?
It does.
Okay.
Yes. But you have to understand the way the process works. These guys can't even start going out getting bids on projects until the budget is approved. So it's the rat through the snake, right? On January 1st, we say, go. They go out and they start going out, speccing, getting bids, evaluating bids, signing contracts. That pushes the completion date of a lot of these larger projects toward the end of the year. We're starting to see a lot of those larger projects being completed in the fall timeframe. So you're going to see a lot of those incomplete projects getting knocked off as we get toward the end of the year. Again, will a few of them bleed over to 2024? Absolutely.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that we stop work on them on December 31st. We're going to continue to work on them and complete them in the beginning of 2024.
As long as the budget goes with it.
It does.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yep.
When you start the new year in January, what do you typically have for your maintenance capital improvement budget?
So let's look at 2023's budget as an example. So you really need to look at three distinct buckets, right? We have capital projects, and those are specifically identified projects that are over $5,000 and have to be capitalized. And I'm getting wonky with accounting on you here.
That's non-PIF, right?
That's correct. We're not even talking about PIF at all right now. This is just capital projects. So the budget for 2023 for capital projects was about $3.4 million. We also had what we call R&M projects, which are the smaller projects that go through the operating budget. That's another $1 million. Again, specifically identified projects that we present to the Budget and Finance Committee as part of the budget process, and they approve that or don't approve it. It's up to them. In 2023, they approved it. So that counts for about $4.3 million in projects for 2023. And then we also have an operating budget for building repair that is for stuff that just pops up. Things break all the time. You can't be totally precise and budget for every single thing. So if an air conditioner breaks, we have to replace that. If a piece of sidewalk cracks and we need to have that fixed, that's coming out of the operational. And that's another probably $700,000 in 2023. So we had roughly $5 million for repair and maintenance and capital projects in the 2023 budget. And again, that's completely separate from PIF. PIF is its own segregated batch of money, and those PIF projects are paid out of the PIF funds.
Okay. What's your best estimate on the amount, the amount of money that you would need in 1 year to complete projects? Is it 8 million? What
So
could you
this is-
comfortably commit to?
This is something that has been discussed quite extensively during our Budget and Finance Committee meetings. And let's say that we decided, hey, we need to do $20 million worth of projects. Are we going to be able to go in 2024 from 3 million to 20 million? This guy's head would explode, right? So we have to be understanding of the fact that we've got to ramp up our staffing of our building and infrastructure staff to accommodate a larger number of projects and a larger budget for projects. So what I'm suggesting for 2024 is somewhere in the 6 to 7 million to start catching up on that, what I'll call deferred maintenance. But going from 3 million to 20 million in 1 year isn't going to happen.
Okay, you're looking at 6 to 7 million, and out of the numbers you gave me about the buckets, what would be the total of those buckets that would go to those kinds of repairs?
So if we're talking 6 to 7 million, I would say 6 of it is going to be what I would call capital projects.
So you have comfortably the 6 million? Okay. So if
Well,
somebody
I don't have that. That's got to be approved
in the budget.
under our budget cycle. Yeah.
The budget that you're going to be submitting. So if someone walked into you and said, Kevin, here's $10 million, you probably wouldn't be able to use it that moment.
I would kiss them and say thank you. Would
Kiss
I be
their
able
ring.
to spend it all in 1 year? Unlikely.
Okay.
But we would invest it and probably spread it out over a couple of years and knock off a lot more of those projects, absolutely.
Okay. Director Fast has a proposal, he said it's his proposal, to eliminate the PIF completely and move that revenue into general fund, capital improvement, I'm not sure what. So that
Well,
really wouldn't help you
I'm going to put
right now.
words into his mouth. He can speak up after
Oh, is
I'm
he
done.
outlined? Okay.
What he is not proposing to eliminate the PIF. What he's proposing is that rather than having a very separate account for PIF money that can only be used on PIF projects, and then another bucket, which we'll call capital improvement fund money, that we combine that and use that to fund all of the projects. That's the way Sun City West does their project budgeting. They have their own version of a PIF. It's $5,000 for a new home buyer in West. They put that PIF money and then they put their capital improvement money into one bucket, and they use that to fund all of their projects. I'm good either way. We can do that. We cannot do that. There's pros and cons for both, but that's what he is proposing to do. And John, I know you're on the line, so if you want to tell me if I represented your proposal correctly, please do. You got to unmute yourself.
We cannot hear you, John.
Can you hear me?
Now we hear you.
Okay. I would say if there were words that were going to be put in my mouth, those would be the words.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's good to know.
Thank you. Excuse me, I'm going to ask that you.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can come back after we've gone around.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Johnny Pearson, 131078. Just wanted to clarify something that I believe Mr. Matus stated about the Sun City Men's Golf Association. We're allowed, I think, 47 events a year. We use 5 of those. I do 5 golf tournaments a year for the Sun City Men's Golf Tournament Association. I do 1 for the Sundials for a total of 6 golf tournaments. That's 1 every 2 months. We also have monthly meetings, second Thursday of every month from September through May, I believe. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Sir?
Ed Miller, 133475. I have to ask this question because the lady that was going to speak wanted me to ask this. Do Mr. Collins and Mr. Nowakowski play golf?
Go ahead, sir.
No.
No, my wife does.
Okay. I just had to ask. Well, what I want to talk about here is you guys have talked about raising rents and raising fees and everything. And one of the reasons that people move here is for the value. There's great value here. You guys do an incredible job with what you have to work with. I see it every day. The bowling alley is second to none. The golf courses, for what we pay for golf, they're second to none. You want to play Pebble Beach, go play Pebble Beach, but you're not doing that here. But what you're going to do if you implement these programs here that you're talking about, John, is you're going to destroy that value. You're going to have people not able to play anymore, and they're not going to be able to play as much as they'd like. The reason you buy that pass is for the value. You buy that pass because there's value there. Rather than paying $42 a round, if I play enough rounds, I'll realize value out of that. If I get sick and I don't play any rounds at all, there the value is destroyed. So there's value on both ends of this. And what I think is happening here is nobody's seeing that. You're just seeing that there's a shortfall in revenue of some sort or another, and you're attacking where your largest source of revenue is. And I think you're going to destroy golf in this city. I honestly do. If you know that it costs $22 a round, then charge accordingly. And if somebody can, and you create a product that if you use this product enough, you're going to be able to get value that's less than that $22, well, then be it. But if you don't want that, don't create that product. And if you think that you're going to get away with charging $75 or $80 a round here, you're outside your mind, because there's better places to play for that kind of money. So I think you guys just need to reconsider what you got here and be appreciative of what you've already created. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Atwood, 106547. When my wife and I bought here 14 years ago, we looked all around, and she wanted to live on a golf course, so we looked everywhere, and this was adequate, and we played some bad courses around here and some good, pretty courses. And we bought here because of the value. If we wanted a nice course, we would have went to Sun City West. And I sort of suggest that to people that want to play at a golf course. I'm sure there's somebody that'll buy their house, and they can go to Sun City West. I'm just suggesting that. We had a friend that complained about the golf courses. We talked him into moving to Sun City West. He did, and he complained about that. So you're not going to please these people. We're more of a Walmart as far as being a retirement community. We're not quite dollar store. We're like the Walmart. And people, and Target, but when we bought here, we accepted that. We accepted this, we accepted how the golf courses were. Now, if we wanted to make it a PGA course, and when we got on the board, let's get on the board, and we'll charge the homeowners money, and we'll make these PGA courses. That'd be inconsiderate and selfish. And unfortunately, I think sometimes people get on the board to do selfish things. They want to push their own agenda. And then who pays for it? Well, we pay for it. Then we start pricing ourselves out because, like I said, we're like a Walmart. And it's the same thing, and you looked around, okay, if you wanted an art center, you could have went to Sun City West. You could have went there. They got a nice arts facility there. But no, let's come here, and let's make other people pay for this. We need to realize we moved here with what facilities that we have. And we need to quit trying to raise our prices, like a lady said before, and price ourselves out of this. This is a nice, low-income place to retire to. And that's what we got to realize. We like the golf courses. Yes, there's some problems, but we like them. Golf courses are great. They're doing a good job as much as they can for what it costs. We get what we pay for. And let's just stay at the Walmart type atmosphere and not try and be inconsiderate and selfish and have other people pay for our pet projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Collins.
Yes, you know, there's some things we can't control, like ADWR. And ADWR says the next 10 years, we're going to have to spend $30 million on our golf courses. That's something we don't have any control of, but we have to do it. And in the last 10 years, 15 years, we've spent $30 million. But, you know, that's out of our control. We have to do this or we won't be in compliance, and then we're going to have hefty fines.
That's fine, but what's happening is we're developing new projects. You know, we got a dog training area, that's $1 million. We got a car building now that we got to pay maintenance for. I don't know what that costs. Now they want a $30 million art center? Now, come on. When they moved here, there wasn't here. So to me, to have somebody else pay for their pet project, I think is ridiculous, because that's what's going on. And like I said, there's board members that had come and gone. They quit because they didn't get their way. They got on here and pushed their agenda, and they quit because their agenda wasn't taken up.
But the increases we have to, what we have to do at golf, the 30 million is going to come out of PIF. The other buildings are going to come out of PIF. That's not raising your fees at all. That's us trying to use the PIF responsibly and cover those issues.
Okay, so where is this art center coming out of?
PIF.
And we need that, thank you, right?
Well, that's people buying houses here. That's how the PIF comes in. It's not a fee put on the residents that are already here.
But you're using that PIF to pay for something we probably don't need.
Well,
I don't understand your logic.
Everybody has a different
We have a golf course, we have these other rec centers. Yes, the PIF is to repair those. Why bring another problem, like another facility, build a big $30 million building that we have to pay to maintain?
Yes. No, we don't want to stop him. We want to hear from our members. But we do want to hear the ding, and then we'll know that, because we want to be fair to everybody.
But that's the deal. Like I said, there's people.
We want to be fair to everybody and give everybody equal time.
Because there's people that want to be selfish and inconsiderate to other homeowners and spend their money on their projects. Now, improvements of facilities that are already here, there's no problem with that.
Sir, thank you for your thoughts. I do want to say just one thing, though. The Mountain View project is priced at $27.3 million, and that is the totality of the project. Reference was made to a $30 million pack. That's not what's happening here, and I just wanted to be clear about that. Oh, absolutely. You cannot begin a project under the PIF if the monies are not already there. Sir?
Hi, Tim Payment, 146860. I'd like to thank you for your patience in collecting the feedback around golf for the last 6 months. There's a lot of emotion there, and I understand that you're near to making your decision. Even with all the emotion, though, it's a business decision you're making, and I would hope that it's presented in that way. We need $22 to break even. Our goal is to break even. To do that, we made these decisions, and we expect each one of those decisions to contribute this much. You know? Keep the emotion out of the decision. It's going to be a tough one. I'm a passionate golfer. I'm open to any changes that need to be made, but I'd like to understand what you're trying to accomplish, and then so we can measure, if we accomplish those goals with the decisions you've made. I'm done.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Brenda Frank, 149988, and golf, of course. I read the article and the Sun Views and the 4 suggestions, and I'm not in agreement with a lot of them. The annual non-resident pass, I don't know that it needs to be eliminated, but certainly the non-residents can pay their fair share, and that perhaps needs to be increased. Resident annual pass being a fixed fee plus a round surcharge, Part of the reason I got the annual pass without surcharge is because I hate paying an extra 5, 10, 7, whatever it is when I go in. I just want to pay one flat fee that I can budget for the year and not have to hassle every time I get to the counter. So the idea of having an annual pass and you must have a surcharge just makes me crazy. And it's a short trip for me to get there. So yes, Sun City golf courses are priced a little lower than others around there. Raising fees to a level competitive with those charged at surrounding facilities. What surrounding facilities would those be? Would those be the privately owned for-profit facilities? Or would those be more municipal type facilities, which is more in line with what I feel we are here? So surrounding facilities just raises a whole lot more question marks in my mind. One of the issues somebody raised was they felt there was a lack of transparency, and for me that came across, the article talks about revenue and rounds playing, but it never said the golf budget is $1 million. Our revenue was 1.2 million, or whatever the figure was. So that kind of gives that, oh, we're keeping secrets from you. We don't want you to know what the total budget was for golf for the year. We just want to raise your rates. So if some of the additional information could be there, this is the total golf budget, this is our total revenue, this is where the shortfall is for improvement projects for the courses, I think that would go a long way towards easing people's minds. And I just throw that out as a suggestion for future communications. And my time is nearly up, so I will go sit down. Thank you.
Thank you. General Manager McCurdy, as you're doing the 2024 budget, can the members, do they have equal access to that information?
Sure, and you can see the 2023 budget detail, which will give you all of the gruesome, detailed information about all the various, what we call cost centers, including golf. You can see literally what we budget for seed and fertilizer and chemicals and et cetera, et cetera. So you can, on our website, you can go into the 2023 budget presentation and see all of that information. And we'll obviously do the same with the 2024 budget once it's approved.
And did you want to take a second to address these surrounding facilities? Can you?
So I'll let Brian take that one.
Thank you.
Who are our competition?
In my mind, our most direct competition from a golf standpoint would be Sun City West. You know, they're the closest like community to us. The country clubs are, as was stated, they're all for profits. Their goal is, at least up to this point, different than ours. You know, we've done our best to spend as economically as we can based on the revenue that we generate. You know, I do have some figures from last year in front of me. Our total revenue budget last year was 7.8 million, and our total operating expenses were 6.4. So we did have an excess last year, and of those total expenses, the annual pass holders combined with the surcharge pass holders and the surcharge pass that they pay, they paid 44% of the total expense budget. So I don't know what number we need that number to be considered fair, but that seems fairly fair to me.
Thank you.
As far as pricing, you know, it was stated earlier that, you know, we've continually raised the non-resident Golf Now fees and will continue to do so. And when the subject of the annual passes came up, we agreed to increase those incrementally and keep looking at them on an 6-month basis to try to get to the sweet point without completely imploding them was the goal. So if more increases are warranted, we're certainly in favor of that. You know, if we have fewer that are paying the same amount of money, that would be a win also, in my mind.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Good morning again, Diane Hull, 1555953. I just want to reiterate, number one, while our courses are very playable and they're generally in very good condition, they're not premier courses. Sun City West, I've played a couple courses out there. They're generally in better condition than ours are because they don't have the volume of play that our courses have. Bottom line, my husband and I pay $3,100 a year right now for golf. We each golf 3, maybe 4 days a week. That's over $250 a month for golf. Add in our rec fee, annual rec fee. We generally don't partake in the rec centers, anything. We're here for golf. So it's costing us over $300 a year to be here and to play golf, or $300 a month, I'm sorry, to be here and to play golf. That's plenty of money for a couple to be playing golf on courses that are good courses, municipal quality courses, not premier courses. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and thank you for donating all of your time.
Thank you. Sir?
Second time up. First time I gave my opinion on what should be done. Now, I'd just like to say that the previous boards that we've had in the past would sit there and listen to people come up here and voice their opinion, and then they would do whatever they wanted to do. The few members of the board that are still here, kudos. You weathered a storm I would not have been willing to weather. Good job. I hope we now have a board that does listen to people, the residents, takes into account how they feel in their decisions. I think overwhelmingly we've heard people's feelings on the annual, on the resident annual. I don't think we really want to cut out outside play. You may have heard some people say that. I think generally what we would prefer to see is the Sun City rates be just enough lower than the surrounding golf courses to still draw people in, and yet not the cut rate that we have now. Last, I will hope that I would ask the board to implement this maybe in stages. First, bring the non-resident rates, start bringing those up to just below the surrounding courses, and then at a very last resort, then hit the annual, the resident annual rate. So if you could do that in stages, and maybe you find that, wow, we really don't need to do this. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is there was no issue with non-residents, only the ones that have annual passes. Those are the only ones where the issue came up. And that was actually the ones that were given a golf cart. And they were also picking tee times ahead of residents. So that's the only issue, was that part of it.
Thank you. Secretary Totten.
Yes, thank you. Director Nowakowski, I read your article, but I have to admit, or your letter, excuse me, I don't remember this fact. Did you say in it, when was the last time that our annual resident fee was raised?
I believe it was 2017, 16 or 17. And for when the motions come up, and we're going to go through this all over again, I think I can show the the data that says how much the resident passes have brought in across the last 14 years. It's public information. It's on our website. Anybody can look it up. And it's a surprising number. But we'll have that for, the motions haven't been made. Once the motions are made, we're going to go through this whole process again with an explanation of how and why and get back the comments on them.
But now we have a much clearer perspective of how some members feel. Sir?
Hi, I'm Dave Rushlow, 133283. I have a three-pronged questions on the Viewpoint Lake. Number one, what is the current update on Viewpoint Lake project? Number two, what are the overruns, if any, on the projected budget on the Viewpoint Lake project? And number three, if there are overruns, where is the money coming to pay for the overruns?
Mike?
There's a meeting on Friday, the 10th meeting, information session that we're having with the Homeowners Association. So if you have specific questions about Viewpoint Lake, that's the time and the forum to bring it up at 11 a.m. right in this room. But in general, we're under budget, and we're looking to complete the lake by the end of October-ish. The filling of the lake, which is going on right now, is a little bit of an imprecise exercise, and so we're monitoring that. But give or take a week or so, we should be up and running by the end of October.
Well, that's all I really need to know, but are you going to put the fish back in?
That will be operations. Mr. Herring's group will take that on. But yes, they're going to be put back. The mix of the fish will probably be different than it was before, but that's to be determined.
You say Mr. Herring?
I did.
That's an appropriate name.
We will be returning fish to Viewpoint Lake. We will not be returning the original fish who left Viewpoint Lake. Ma'am?
Anita Borski, 136312. Kevin, is there the list of maintenance projects that need to be done? Is that available?
It has been provided to the Budget and Finance Committee and the board. We're still going through that process as part of the budget cycle. Definitely, it will be published after the board approves the 2024 budget. Whether they will be in favor of me releasing the current list, the full list, I'll leave that to them. I kind of prefer not to until we actually have an approved budget, because it's going to raise all kinds of questions that I really don't have time to answer right now. But yeah,
Okay,
it
no
will be
problem.
published.
The reason that I asked about the PIF, moving that money from restricted to another account is I'm terrified it's going to get nickeled and dimed to death. And then when we have a big project, we'll be hurting. The other reason I'm up here is the Strategic Alternatives Committee, the Mountain View Project. I am on that committee. And I guarantee you we are not spending $30 million because we don't have it. There are a lot of people that want a performing arts center, and then there's 12 different groups of clubs and organizations here that could use it. I understand your golf. I don't golf, so I could say take out 5 golf courses because I don't use them. Everybody has their interest, and we're trying to make everyone happy. Our problem on the committee right now is we don't have enough money. We're dealing with construction increases that have gone through the roof. We're dealing with contractors who are gouging us, and we ran out of land. So there's 20, 25 people sitting in this meeting every week trying to make everybody happy. And right now, I'm not sure where we're going to end up. It's up for grabs right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to just point out one other thing, too. if the original Mountain View project had not been suspended, construction would not have begun until early 2024. So the construction increases that have taken place would have applied to that project just the same that they will apply to the project when it gets passed again. So I just think it's important for us all to understand that, as though we've lost all this money by not moving forward faster on a project that this board deemed to be inappropriate for our community, it probably isn't as dire as some of us think it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I just want to say that I really don't want to be a Walmart. I'd rather be a Target. I don't have to be a Saks Fifth Avenue. I just need to be somewhere in the middle. And I'm not, I know we don't need to, I don't really care if I am a West or a Grand. I just want something that is playable than what we have. I mean, I got caught between two big clumps of grass, crabgrass, I don't know what they are. And I don't think that should be right. And I just want to be a Target. So, there you
go. Bill Pearson, 133438. I know the board and the staff right now aren't into shameless self-promotion, so I'll do it for you. Everybody has talked, or the one lady mentioned, and everybody has been accustomed to the board taking 2 months off during the summer. Nobody took any time off this summer. SAC has been meeting every Friday. The Budget and Finance Committee has been meeting every other Wednesday. Kevin McCurdy has been working his butt off on budgets, and it was all available if you just looked. So let me be clear. I'm doing this really for the purposes of the video, because I've noted that 3/4 of the golfers that were in the room left to go get their tea time. Thank you for those of you that stayed. But golf is an integral part of this community. As John pointed out, we are a golfing community. We'll always be a golfing community. The mistake people make is when they attribute anything to Del Webb, because Del might have been in Sun City a dozen times. The real genius behind Sun City was John Meeker. And Meeker's vision was for, oh, by the way, a pack up on the corner of 99th and Bell that held 1,800 people. Oh, by the way, for the golfers in the room, you need to know this. I know Kevin's busy and he probably doesn't want to show you the contract, but I've read it. When we took over the golf courses, golf and 10-pin bowling had to be self-sustaining. Everything else was given to us. Now, they only paid $10 and a cup of coffee to get 7 courses. The 8th came along later. But from a historical standpoint, it's important that you know that, because this stay and play, or pay and play, or whatever however it's been referenced, has been floated a half a dozen times over the 60 years we've been here. Nobody's ever bought it. You heard Kevin say that golf made some money last year, except when you factor in capital expenses. And then they've lost money every year since we took them over. That's okay. What's not okay is when somebody pays $5 for a round of golf and then goes, well, I want to keep getting $5 for a round of golf. I'll go play my 300 rounds, pay my $15.50, and go, that's okay. Or when we stand up here and say 12,000 rounds to outsiders that are paying a fraction of what they should be paying is okay, because it's not okay. Those rounds belong to the members that live here. And I'll just leave you with this, a couple of thoughts, and I know my time is almost up, but I've suffered through several people speaking twice, so indulge me. As we go down the road, if you've been in the Budget and Finance Committee, which most of you weren't, not blaming you, but it's there. You can walk in the room and listen. Kevin will tell you that our golf courses are struggling to keep workers because our starting rate is $14.07 when our competition, Sun City West, is paying 17 and change to start. And so the 40% turnover comes a lot because of trying to hire new people who are trained and then go over to West and get a $3 increase. You would also know that equipment, capital expenses, that should have been spent over the years to buy new golf equipment, which they should have bought, keeps having somebody put a rubber binder on it or a Band-Aid and trying to fix it. And so we've got to start spending money. Oh, and by the way, as Steve or somebody mentioned, when we get to the next 5 years, under the ADWR Fifth Water Management Plan, we're $20 to $30 million directly out of PIF to get rid of the roughs. It's not an option unless you want to play on dirt. And to me, that's not an option. And I don't golf anymore, but I wouldn't ask you to play out of dirt because I think it's illogical or irrational. But it's money that's going to be spent. Now, if the North Course trial grass turns out to be a good deal, who knows what it'll be, because all that'll happen is if that's our salvation, the price for that grass will go up about tenfold. It's just how it works. My point is this, guys. Golf, PAC, whatever you're involved in, understand that the community isn't one thing, it's everything. Understand that we have a collective process that this board is engaged in asking members directly. I would hope they listen to you. I would hope that the decision to adjust golf rates is one that you're involved in via the Golf Advisory Committee. Now, here's the downside to this, and let me be very clear. The Golf Advisory Committee has had these issues for the last 6 years, and guess how much the pass was increased in the last 6 years? Nada. Nothing. Zero. Every year we said to the walk-on Sun City resident, you're going to pay $1 more a year. It was our salvation and our solution. It wasn't. Because the cost for a round of golf is whatever it is. And if you're paying $5 or $10 for a round because you're buying the pass and playing 5 or 6 times a week, you're asking somebody else to subsidize you. I don't know what the right number is, but take ownership of the process. Ownership is how Sun City was built from the first day. And if we relinquish that to somebody else, we do all of ourselves a disservice. So thank you to the board and the management.
Thank you. And I might add, the ones who are subsidizing are playing pickleball, swimming in pools, playing tennis, and doing all of the other things that we have here in Sun City. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lorraine Arend, and I'm 107269, and I'm just here to thank each and every one of you. I've been on an association board, the president of it, for only 5 years. It is a lot of work, and I can't imagine the work you guys have to put into this, being the whole community. And you've worked so hard. All of you put your effort into it, and I just want to say thank you, hopefully from a lot of us. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. President. Yes, Mr. Collins. Director.
Yes, I just wanted, since she came up and she mentioned that, we need people to come and run for the board. Please, come and fill out applications. We had a couple women that I guess filled them out and then quit because they thought it was going to be too much work. Don't quit. Don't give up on it. Come on in here, make things better, and we'll work around. We'll work with you. We'll get it down there where you might have a little fun. Hopefully.
I think they were told that it's a 40-hour-a-week job. It's a tough job, but it's not 40 hours a week. I'm sorry. Is that? Yes, ma'am.
Rochelle Fimo, 143-479. I wasn't going to speak today, but someone made a mention of $1 million dog facility. That's not happening. I'm the president of the Best Friends Dog Club. We've talked nothing about money. We asked for an indoor climate-controlled place to have our training, and that's it. And we're having an open house on October 14th. If anybody would like to come, we're going to have demonstrations in the training yard, snacks inside. We have a brand new sign at Fairway. It says Best Friends Dog Club. Thank you very much for that. And hopefully we'll see you there.
Yes, sir. She's going to run right in front of you. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Sherry Guida, 151324, and thank you to all of you. I don't play golf. I really would want to make a plea to everybody for kindness towards groups that you don't belong to. I don't play golf. I don't care about golf. There are things I care about. I don't have a dog. I never will have a dog. But there are people who care about that. So please be kind to other groups and stop disparaging the pack, the dog club, golfers, and pickleball players. It's getting old. My question to people who know about golf, since I don't, is how is the younger demographic when it comes to playing golf? Somebody has said this will always be a golfing community. I want to know, are people in their 30s and 40s who will be buying into this community shortly, are they interested in golf? What is the future of golf? And that's, I'll sit.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, Director Collins.
I heard, Brian, that we let the schools come in and play late in the day to try and encourage golf play in the youth.
Correct.
Can you address that?
Which, her question or Steve's question?
Steve's question, please.
Yes, we do have high school teams, or their high school golf teams that come in the afternoons. There's typically one team per golf course. We don't allow any more than that. They practice here several days a week and then play their matches here as their home courses.
And do we know any demographics, or can we look into some demographics?
I wish if you'd asked me that 4 years ago, I probably would have been in Bill Pearson's court saying that golf was on a steady decline, because that's what the numbers were showing nationally. But since COVID, those numbers have turned around and jumped the other way, not just here in Sun City, but on a national level. So until whatever COVID effect either goes away or manages to become a mainstay, I don't think anybody has a firm answer on that right now.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Madam Chair?
Secretary Totten?
Yes, I don't like to put any staff member in the bullseye, but I believe we paid for a survey with ASU, and I believe that we have now started utilizing the, help me out here, Beth.
Yes,
what is it that we're doing different than what we already did?
We're in the last stage of the ASU survey where people are currently answering surveys aimed at prospective residents, pretty much the age range of 40 to 55. And we're just looking to see what they're looking for in a retirement active adult community. And that will, of course, include golf and just a variety of questions. So I should have those results in the next couple of weeks, and I'll make sure I get those to you. And
This would be the last.
That's the last step.
Last section of the survey process. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Director Nowakowski.
Am I not back on? Not yet? Okay. One of the things that we always say is we are a golf community, and we will always remain a golf community. To hit some of the history on that, when Mr. Webb, through Mr. Meeker, through DEFCO, gave us those properties for the golf, there are restrictions to them, unfortunately, that we as a group accepted. One of those is the property will always remain a golf. So to turn around and say we're not a golf community because we can do something else with those properties is going to be considerably difficult. So yes, we are a golf community. We'll always be a golf community because there's, as of this point in time, until some other government agency says you got to get rid of those golf courses, they're going to be there. So one of the things we have to do is either figure out how to pay for them or have somebody else pay for them. Yes, we will always be a golf community.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Cal Frank, and my number is 1499888. And I guess the gentleman that spoke before kind of covered the ground that I was going to go to. I'm curious about maintenance situations. I've been checking out, playing a couple other courses in town and paying a little bit more to play them. And I hear that maybe the possibility is that if I can go to work for McDonald's for $17.50 an hour, I might just come over here for $14 and learn how to mow a grass and head to somebody like Westbrook and let them go ahead and hire me for $3 more an hour. So I'm concerned that I know everybody wants money and we're coming up short here and there. The other concern or at least I was told, and it looks like it's been verified by the numbers I've heard today, is that last year golf was in the plus 1.2 million. Now, when somebody told me that, they said, well, that just makes up for a lot of years that it didn't make money. I have not seen those numbers, but is there anybody that can nod their head that until last year it didn't make money and we basically as golfers took out of the general fund to keep the golf courses open?
I would say that would be generally accurate. Would management agree with that?
I would say that the positive category probably goes back a little bit farther than just, the first COVID year. We saw some positivity as well as 2021. But if you want to take into the fact, we spend well over $500,000 a year replacing equipment, as well as another $150,000 a year maintaining our golf wells. That takes $650,000 off of that number.
The other thing I would like to say is we're all dealing with inflation right now. I do not understand how somebody would not understand why golf would go up 5 to 7% every year. If I'm paying more for food and gas, well, gas is a little more than 7%, but the other things that are paying, so I don't know how the budget process goes, but has there ever been an inflationary target put in for inflation every year? I mean, it's bad now in double figures, but do we just continue on every year with the same numbers and we throw out anything? Because if we're working on old numbers, no wonder golf hadn't made some money in a while. The only other thing I was curious about, and that is, I did go I was on the $500 pay $5 or $7 during the year, and I went in and I said, well, I've got this pass. What do I pay for the golf cart? And the guy behind the counter says, well, I need $6.38. And I said, well, can I give you $7 or could I give you $8? Because I don't like to carry a lot of trains around. I don't want to stand here while I'm blocking these other people from getting their payments done and have you count out 62 cents and $3. And he said, no, I can't do that because the accountant will be upset about it. Well, I mean, can we kind of keep things in a, dollars instead of cents? And if you charged me a whole $7, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
Just one thing. In the past, and we had some years where we had courses closed, whether we were putting in sprinklers or whatever, but when we've had courses closed for the year, our revenue was up on those years because we didn't have all those expenses going through the year. So it's a lot to do with the amount of manpower and workers and all that go into each course, which drag down those numbers.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Brad Zimmerman, just quick reply maybe to this lady's questions about the demographics or how many golfers. I think that's kind of how this all got started, is there was so many golfers, they weren't getting tee times. I mean, that's how we kind of got going on this a ways back, and or at least they weren't getting their prime tee time. So I think you're never going to have a problem with enough golfers. I think the problem we're going to run into, and the last census, I believe Sun City is now younger than Sun City West. I've heard or understood. I don't know the exact facts on it, but I believe that you're never going to have a problem where you lose golfers in a golf community. So I think that, and she's talking about 40 to 55-year-olds, I believe, or something like that, and of course, we're over that. And I think a lot of people even take up golf in a later period of their lives. So when they come in here and understand that there's ample play for that. So I was just thinking that I think that, as far as more golfers, we'll always have golfers. I don't think that's going to go away.
Thank you. Seeing no further speakers, I'll move on and let you know that the next meeting of the Board of Directors is scheduled for September 28th here at Sundial at 9 a.m. The next exchange is scheduled for October 9th, 9 a.m. here at Sundial. And the annual membership meeting is scheduled for November 29th, 6 p.m. in Sundial. There being no further, I'm sorry?
The October member exchange or exchange is actually at 6 p.m., not at 9 in the morning.
Oh, yep, that's absolutely correct. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Sure.
So that is at 6 p.m. Thank you. The answer to that question would be yes. And I might add, just for people's information, that quorum, I believe, do we fully bring that down to 500, correct? One more vote? Okay, thank you for, okay.
So unfortunately, I don't have the actual dates in mind right now, but with respect to the annual membership meeting, there are some deadlines that need to be observed about any motions that membership would like to bring forward. So the length of time is dependent on the time of motion it is. If there's a motion, for instance, to change something in the Articles of Incorporation, that's already due sometime in October by virtue of our bylaws. If it's a motion to change something in the bylaws or the board policies, that's another date. And if it's just any other motion, there's a separate date for that. And part of the reason is to make sure that we're following our own bylaws when it comes to voting on these things. And another part of that is simply that in order to get proxies, that's another date, by the way, when the proxies have to be submitted, but people have to know what the motions are in order to go collect proxies to be able to vote on somebody else's behalf. So that information, Marcia, I think is all available on the website. Is that correct? When those... Okay, so Jolynn says it will be included again. It was posted actually in June at our last board meeting. I don't happen to have the numbers with me or the dates with me right now, but if there is any interest in bringing something forward for a membership vote, please do make sure that you observe those deadline dates.
Did you have a comment about the dates, Director Thomas?
No.
Okay.
I'll find them.
Okay. So the annual membership meeting is November 29th at 6 p.m. here at Sundial. There being no further business and without objection, this meeting is adjourned, and I will remind you to turn on your cell phones and electronic devices.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.